When I was in year 6, my teacher sat me and my sister down. We thought we were in massive trouble. We didn't know what we'd done. And she told us very bluntly that our life would never be the same again.
Okay. Do you like me, Billy?
This is the true face of identity disorder.
Nice.
Can't pretend to be 18 if you're 8.
This is my mother.
Huh? Okay.
All the different personalities that take over have got their own genders, their own characters, their own names. They can be male or female.
A world of confusion and dissociation.
Dissociation has many different forms, but I'm talking today about dissociative identity disorder and how it affects me and my family. I wasn't aware of me being any different until I was about 15 years old, but I didn't actually get any, I didn't have any, what do you call it, connection with mental health until a lot later. So even though I was aware I was different, I was self-harming, I was having a long periods of amnesia. I didn't know what it was, or I hadn't seen the doctors or hadn't been to any therapists or anything until I was 22. It was the first time I had any official help, and that was because my eldest daughter had actually passed away. And that's when I started having bereavement counselling, and that was when it was diagnosed, because obviously then they saw different situations with me and realising that the trauma of that had also were triggers then for the D.I.D. to happen.
Can't pretend to be 18 if you're 8. Huh? Okay.
Sometimes I get an out-of-body type of sensation where I'm looking down at a situation but I can't control it. I have no control. I'm just watching it from afar going on. That's, I think, the main gist of what I've been told myself by therapists, by my psychiatrist, what D.I.D. is. I've got another diagnosis of emotionally unstable personality disorder, and that is believed, dissociation tends to be part of one of the subgroups of the personality disorder as well that I have.
Okay. Do you like me, Billy? Wait, do you like me? Nice.
But everyday life is a trigger for me at the moment. Especially at the moment because I'm going through therapy, so I can tend to, because I'm having to talk about my past, it can be, that's a trigger in general.
To try and understand my mum's disorder, I wanted to speak to an expert in the field of D.I.D. and maybe even understand the condition I always thought I knew.
An alter is a name that's used besides personality. I suppose it comes from alternative, which is quite helpful really, because the idea that there are different parts of someone with D.I.D. Is very important to understand, but it's also very important to understand that they're all part of one person.
So I'm going to talk about Billy, and then Lucy, and then Sally. Billy is a young boy, a very young boy. I've always believed him to be sort of about 6 years old. He loves farm animals, he loves haystacks, and he always has a dinosaur on. He sees anything exciting, anything that he wants to play with or do, and then he will want to take the limelight.
It's fairly common for people to have child alters, and the reason for that is to do with what is behind DID, what is underneath DID, where does it come from? Well, it's very much associated with early experiences of trauma. And this is often, not always, but often or even usually to do with sexual abuse and neglect, perhaps physical abuse.
Finding this out for myself was heartbreaking. I just couldn't picture the sort of torment that she had gone through.
Billy, very loving and sweet. I see him very much like that, but I also see, I think I'm quite logical in my thinking. I like to think that it may be where I missed out on a lot of my childhood. I don't remember so much of my childhood, that he is the one wanting to take the limelight, to get some of that back, to have some airtime, to release and be a child again, basically. Lucy is an alter who's about 17. She's the one that I find really quite difficult to understand, because I've been aware of, or been made aware that these alters that I have are here to protect me and to keep me safe. As I don't understand then that Lucy is the self-harmer. She's one that will go and drink alcohol, put herself in dangerous situations, be very impulsive, is very self-deprecating. She is probably the teen that I was, really, when I look back over time. But that way then I can't understand why she's here now, why she still comes out, because they're supposed to be protectors. That's what I was made aware of. They're all supposed to protect, and yet Lucy doesn't.
They're struggling with what it means to be used, badly used by somebody else, like an object very often. And so there's a very poor sense of self-worth, usually, very low self-esteem.
A woman as beautiful and as kind as my mother being taken for nothing more than an object. It truly was heartbreaking.
And last but not least, we'll talk about, what one should we talk about? We'll talk about Sally. Sally is a real character. Totally different to me. She's very motherly, but from what my family have told me, has a fantastic South American accent, which I cannot do to save my life. She's always comforting Billy within my mind. She's, she's the one who gives him the cuddles and reassurance.
Well, it may be that one of the abusers spoke in a particular language or had a particular accent, and so it might have come in that way.
With DID, it's never going to go away because I want it to.
Owen finds my condition very difficult. He loves his mum, and so when others come out and about, he doesn't want them there. Obviously, they're not his mum, and he'll take himself away or not deal with it. He struggles to deal with my condition.
I still love her nonetheless, don't I? It's time that we stop being arrogant and address every single mental health issue as if it were a cancer, as if it were a disease. Because I tell you, they are just as dangerous. Let's address this now.